Hey everyone, hope everyone's doing well. I am going to attempt on this video um, to do something a little bit more, should I call it entry level. A lot of people message me, the longer I do this YouTube thing, I'm on a couple of Facebook groups, people message me and they want to know about porting. So I try to describe to them what all the numbers mean, and a lot of times they're just like, that went right over my head. So, and believe me, this stuff used to go over my head. I was not born a two-stroke builder, so my channel is always going to be about, I want to share information. People shared information with me, and I want to put it out there on YouTube so everybody who's interested can watch these videos and maybe get a little better grasp of what's going on. So let's go a little bit backwards from porting. How do these things work? What's going on from the moment you pull the recoil? Okay. Some people even say I don't know which way the motor spins. Let's go through all that and talk about what do the timing numbers mean. When I port a saw, what am I doing to it? And then we can go from there. Hopefully this video works. Hopefully it helps some people out. Two strokes are a fickle creature. They are not like any engine I've ever worked on. They are completely different, but they're so simple. So in this video, we're gonna talk about piston ported two strokes. There's other types of two strokes. Reed valve comes to mind. We can do a reed valve video down the road. I am not a reed valve expert. I have reed saws, you know, this big old home light, that's a reed saw. There's several more in my collection, but I am a piston ported kind of guy. So without further ado, let's start from the recoil, which way the engine spins, and then what is actually going on when one of these things is running. How do they work? Hopefully this video is of some use to somebody. Okay, first thing you got to do when you're timing or looking at port timing in an engine, which way does the engine spin? Here's the recoil. It mounts on this side of the engine. When you pull the recoil, which way does it spin? It spins forward, okay? So if you went on the clutch side, it spins this way. So if you're looking at the engine, it spins clockwise. So there's the first thing. When you pull over this engine, it goes forwards. And I'm sorry if this is too basic for some people, but this is what this video is about. We're going to go backwards so that we can go forwards. I want everybody to learn this stuff. Okay. This is a 266 carcass. Or a 162 carcass. I'm not sure. I think it's a 162 Husqvarna. Okay. This is your piston. Okay. I'm sure a lot of you know that. Exhaust side, intake side. When we talk about port timing, what we're talking about is on this side, if this piston goes forward, okay, there's your crankshaft. As it spins, it goes up and down. Now, what we're talking about is when it's spinning forward, at bottom dead center, it'll start going up as it travels. When we are timing intakes, we are timing from the moment this skirt opens. That's when your intake opens. Same on the exhaust side. Okay? Same as on your exhaust side. It hits top dead center, and then it starts traveling down. Okay, when we time the exhaust side, we're timing it from top dead center to when it opens down, and we count the degrees on the degree wheel. Okay, so because I've been asked this a few times, so I figured I'll just put it in a video. Okay, so again, motor's traveling forward, piston starts coming up from bottom dead center. When it cracks the intake port, it starts drawing air in. Now, what a lot of people don't know about a two-stroke, the reason why you mix gas and oil is the bottom end, the crankshaft and the bearings are lubricated by oil, the oil that's in the gas. So, here, I have a piston here to try and demonstrate this, okay? So let's put this piston in the jug. This piston goes up, okay? It goes up, intake opens. Now the air is pulled through, okay? The air is pulled through the carburetor, through the intake. And now you look at the shape of this. Most intakes are sloped down. That's because we want the air charge to go underneath the piston. It goes from there to the bottom end. Okay. It goes through the bottom end and mixes. And then once the intake charge is fully closed in there, okay, so the piston goes up. Now if you notice, as it goes up, you're going to hit top dead center. Now what happens as it comes down? The exhaust cracks right there. The exhaust cracks, and now at a certain point when the exhaust cracks, notice the exhaust is higher than the transfers. Okay, those are your upper transfers. I'm going to get a better pointer. Let's use my seal puller. Okay, that's your upper transfer. So the air comes from the underneath, travels beside or underneath the piston, and as the piston's coming down, the crankcase is full. So as the piston comes down, that air becomes compressed and it has to go somewhere. Where does it go? It goes through these windows in the side of the piston. Okay, it travels through these windows and it goes into the lower transfers. Right here. It goes through the lower transfer and out the upper transfers. Now, when we're talking about blowdown, we're often talking about the upper transfer blowdown. Okay, so the exhaust opens, that explosion happens in the combustion chamber, it starts forcing the piston down. Okay, it pushes on the piston with a force great enough to make it want to cycle again. But it comes down to a point and then this cracks. Well, what happens to that gas? It wants to go into low pressure. Okay, that muffler is under low pressure. So this high pressure charge will explode in here and it naturally wants to go this way and out. Well, as it starts traveling out, that's going to create a slight vacuum, right? It wants to go. Well, right about when that starts occurring, the upper transfers start to open. As the piston is coming down, the upper transfers will open. Okay? Now, think of a syringe. As the piston is traveling down, okay, it's pushing the air that's in the crankcase. It's pushing down on it and exerting a force. So that's where the air comes out of the bottom end and wants to come out of these windows. Okay, this is what's called a windowed piston. This is common in a lot of older saws. Okay, so that charge comes up through the windows, and I already said this once, but I'll keep reiterating, up through the windows and through these lower transfers and ends up in the upper transfer. Okay, that ends up filling the combustion chamber again. Now remember, this is happening at an incredible speed. Okay, on a stock saw it can be 9,000 RPM in the cut. This is happening. Okay, let's do it one more time. I'm going to use this saw that is together. Okay, MS461 that we timed. Okay, I am turning the crankshaft forward. Now notice, let's get this to, there we go. Okay, Let's start at top dead center. It just went boom. Okay? We'll say that's top dead center. Okay? At top dead center, notice the intake is open. It's already drawing air into the intake. Now at top dead center, here, we will put this piston in this bore. At top dead center, notice something. The exhaust port is completely closed at top dead center. Both of your upper and lower transfers will be exposed at top dead center, which means all your intake charge is in this area, okay? And it's filled the bottom end. So you have all that intake charge, okay, that you now are going to be pressurizing as the piston starts traveling down. Now, this is upside down, but watch the piston travel down. It travels down, starts compressing it. It hits a point where, let's back this up again. See, it's even hard for me to show. We got to show on the intake side. The piston starts traveling up. Notice the intake is open. Okay? As this piston starts traveling up, it starts closing the intake. Now notice, as the intake closes, right there, what's still open? The transfers. So now, as it starts compressing the charge and coming back down, right, the charge wants to go through those windows into the lower transfers. And now, if I can show you here, again, I never practiced this. I just was like, let's do this. Okay, now notice, the intake is closed. The upper transfers are still slightly open. I don't know if you can see down in there. Okay, there's your upper transfers. Notice, as the piston closes them, look, as the piston closes the upper transfers, the intake, the exhaust is already starting to open. So when the exhaust opens, the upper transfers are closed. And now remember, the piston is traveling down, and all that compressed charge is going through the upper transfers, but it doesn't have anywhere to go at this point, right? So think, there is a pressure load of the case volume and whatever was drawn in underneath the piston. There is a compressed charge of air and fuel in there. Okay, and then as the exhaust opens, say about there, you won't be able to see it. Actually, yeah, you can, through there. See that? Transfer's open. Beautiful. Exhaust opens. Let's see if I can get that. There you go. Okay, exhaust opens, upper transfer opens. Boom, it goes down, that charge goes through that transfer, fills the combustion chamber, and now the whole process happens again. Piston starts going up, it's now drawing air in through the intake. Piston goes up, that volume of air, think of a syringe, is drawn in. It goes to top dead center, bang, and the whole thing happens again. Whew, that was exhausting. I'm not sure if that shows what is going on, but that's what's going on as I understand it, okay? Okay, I hope that kind of helped. So just remember, take a saw apart and look at it. It's easier on your bench, okay? Anytime the piston is going up, it is drawing air in through the intake. Anytime the piston is coming down, it is compressing the air. That's your intake side, okay? So up, it's drawing air in. Down, it's compressing the air. As it comes down, the distance between the top of your squish band, that's your squish. When we measure squish, we're measuring it right here on the squish band, okay? How much torque the saw has is dictated in simple terms by the size of the bore and the stroke, and also At what point, okay, if your squish is here, at what point does the exhaust open? Because it's only pushing down for that amount of time. Okay, so your piston's coming down, your exhaust opens. When your exhaust first opens, your upper transfers, which are on the side here, are closed at this point. Okay, so piston's coming down, exhaust opens. The exhaust stays open for a little bit, say 20 degrees of rotation, and then at that 20-degree mark, your upper transfer opens and starts filling fresh air and fuel on top of the piston. Now, while that's going on, it's compressing the charge. Okay, so it's going up, it draws a large amount of air in. As it comes down, it's compressing it. That's what pushes it through the windows, around, through the lower transfers, and up through the upper transfers. Okay, so when we port a saw, what we're doing, the way I do it, there are other ways, we can get into that on another video. I am changing where the exhaust opens, where the transfers open, and how long the intake is open. That's all I'm doing. A lot of gains are to be made in these lower transfers. If you can make them flow more air, you're in good shape. Same with the upper transfers. If you can make them a better nozzle for the air pump, that's where a lot of your gains are to be made. But all you're doing when you're porting is you're changing where the exhaust opens, where the transfers open, and how long the intake is open. So think of that in the 3 steps. The exhaust opens, the transfers open, the intake closes. That's what you're doing when you're porting. Okay? I think this video is long enough. Hopefully I showed you guys in a little simpler terms what we're doing to these cylinders. Okay, we are cutting the exhaust roof to make it open sooner. The upper transfers are here. We are often cutting those higher and changing the shape of them to make them open sooner, but not really. Remember, when you raise this higher, the distance between the exhaust coming out and the upper transfers opening is now greater. Okay, which means you have more exhaust coming out, right? More exhaust coming out into the muffler before more fresh air gets driven over top of the piston. Which, if it's too great of a distance, the saw can run lean because you don't have enough time to squeeze that syringe and put that fresh air charge on top of the piston. Okay, so that's what we're doing. We're cutting the roof of the exhaust. We will often raise the transfers so that they are similar or greater than stock numbers. So we will raise these up to match where they were stock. And then on the intake side, you can either cut the skirt of the piston, or you can cut the floor of the intake, or you can do both. That's it. That's all that porting is. It is difficult to learn. You are going to make mistakes, but with the price of aftermarket cylinders, what I would recommend to a few of you that are interested in porting, buy a couple of aftermarket cylinders and jump right into it. You'll learn. And you know what? Often, if you don't go too drastic on your numbers, what you'll end up with is a amazingly strong saw that you built, which is always better. An amazingly strong saw that you built, that you now have the timing numbers for because you'll write them down, that you can recreate. That's what this is all about. If you guys go back in my videos, I'm gonna grab this. You see this saw? Well, this was the first saw I ported the correct way. Okay, I put a timing wheel on it. I'm just gonna put it back on the shelf. That saw is incredibly strong. Now remember, there's no machine work. I did all the grinding with a Dremel and some good quality rotary burrs or rotary files, whatever you want to call them. There is no upper transfer work to that saw. That is all lower transfer, intake, and exhaust timing. No base gasket. So I just want to reiterate, the whole reason why I have this channel is to share information. You guys can port. I know a lot of you want to. Dig into it. The first thing you need to learn is timing. That's why I put out the last video. But then I got quite a few questions of what does that all mean? So now you hopefully understand how it works. And then I would suggest print off a timing wheel like this, laminate it, put a timing wheel on one of your saws, time it 20 times, write down the numbers, really get a feel for what's going on. And then once you see it, you will probably be like, oh, that makes sense. And then you can port. As to what to do, I'm probably not going to tell you that. There's a million ways to port. All I can tell you is don't raise the exhaust too high. Okay? Don't open the intake for too long. And if you're going to touch the upper transfers, you be sure that they're the same. You want them to open at the same point and they're the same shape. Other than that, just make it a better air pump. That's all this is. It's an air pump. Make it pump more air, and the more air it pumps, the more power it'll make. That's just the way it works. So that's it. That's the video I wanted to make. Hopefully it's okay. Maybe I'll do it again if people have more questions. Please post your questions. That's what I'm doing this for. I like when people ask questions. There's no silly questions. There's only silly answers. So thanks to all my subscribers, all the thumbs ups. It's helping. It's helping with my channel, so I really appreciate it. Without you guys doing that, none of my videos would show up in any playlists, or any feeds. So I really appreciate all the support. Wouldn't do it if you guys weren't watching. That's the whole reason for this. Anyhow, remember, it's just a syringe. Syringe with holes that controls how it leaks. That's all it is. Okay? Okay? Any questions, please? I'm not an educator or a teacher, so if you guys need to know anything, please ask. That's what I'm here for. That's the only reason why I'm doing this. Hope everybody's having a great day. As always, thanks for watching. Take her easy.